Switzerland. Land of majestic peaks. Land of crystalline lakes. Land of villages and traditions. A gentle mist rises from the alpine waters. A red train slowly climbs the slopes. Cowbells resonate through the green pastures. Welcome to Switzerland. Welcome to the heart of the Alps. Known as Europe's most mountainous region, this is a place where imposing mountains guard fairy tale villages and where the tradition of watchmaking and the finest chocolate continues to this day. But let's start from the beginning. Switzerland rises in the heart of Europe, guarding more alpine peaks than any other European nation. And precisely for this reason, every square kilometer or square miles conceals a marvel. With one lake every 6.5 square kilometers, or 2.5 square miles, this land has crystalline mirrors of water that reflect not only snow-capped peaks, but also the perfection of pristine nature. It's a country of extreme contrast, where microclimates defy all geographical logic. In the canton of Ticino, palm trees rise under the Mediterranean sun, and vineyards produce fine wines. While just 100 kilometers or 62 miles away on the glaciers, the thermometer never dares exceed zero. It's as if the Mediterranean and the Arctic had decided to coexist in a space so small it seems impossible. This alpine paradise lives under a flag unique in the world, square-shaped like only that of the Vatican, symbol of a nation that has made precision its supreme art. It is also a nation that, curiously, has no official capital, but only Bern as the federal city, almost as if to emphasize that the true capital is the entire confederation. Here, moreover, 4 national languages resonate, which are German, French, Italian, and Romansh, and they interweave with each other, creating a linguistic mosaic of rare beauty. It is in this diversity that Switzerland finds its strength and its multifaceted identity. In the workshops of this country, in 1868, the first wristwatches were born, giving life to a tradition that has made Swiss time synonymous with perfection. Still today, master clockmakers study for years before being able to touch a Rolex or a Patek Philippe, guarding secrets passed down through generations of artisans. But Switzerland is also the land of chocolate par excellence, where each inhabitant consumes about 10 kilograms or 22 pounds per year of this delight, more than anyone else in the world. Continuing, in the homes of this people, cheese fondue is not just a dish, but a social ritual indeed the very essence of Swiss conviviality. It should also be emphasized that this is among the safest nations in the world, both because it holds so many bunkers it could house the entire population, and because it has crime rates among the lowest on the planet. Switzerland, therefore, is much more than a simple confederation. It's an entire world, a place that continues to tell its story of precision and beauty to anyone who visits it. But now let's go discover the most incredible and iconic places of this nation. Zurich. The lake unfolds before the city, and the Limmat River flows through it, carrying reflections of light. Zurich has always been a meeting point between nature and modernity, a place where these two worlds touch without excluding each other. The old town preserves narrow alleys and medieval houses, while just beyond rise banks, international headquarters, and cultural spaces that speak another language. The churches tell centuries of history, their towers dominating the skyline, their stained glass windows filling the interiors with color. Once industrial districts now host art galleries and modern venues, while city parks offer green spaces just steps from the center. Along the lakeside, life flows between ferries that come and go, bike paths that follow the water, and swimmers diving into its clear surface. It is a city that lives constantly in contact with its natural surroundings, never drifting away from them. Lauterbrunnen. This village lies enclosed in a deep glacial valley, surrounded by vertical cliffs from which waterfalls descend as if falling straight from the sky. The Staubach Falls drop for almost 300 meters, or about 984 feet, forming a column of water and mist that vanishes into the air. Nearby, trails lead to rural homes and small alpine hamlets, where pastoral traditions continue to endure. Wooden houses with steep roofs overlook the blooming meadows, while in winter, the landscape is covered in silent snow, softening every sound. There is also a railway connecting the valley floor to higher villages, offering a route of rare visual beauty, turning the journey itself into an experience. Bern. The river Aare flows through the city, tracing narrow bends, and along its banks stretches a historic center built of limestone, protected by UNESCO. Covered arcades wind for kilometers or miles, sheltering small shops that open every morning, and cafes where time seems to slow down. The medieval clock tower still strikes the hours, while just beyond, the green dome of the Parliament rises above the surrounding buildings. When summer arrives, the river becomes the heart of everything. Its clear and cold waters, welcoming those who let themselves drift with the current. Among the narrow streets stand cultural institutions, open-air markets, and courtyards that remain hidden from view. It is a discreet federal capital where history weighs heavily but never oppresses, and daily life flows with an almost natural lightness. Zermatt. Here, there are no cars. Only electric trains can reach this alpine village, where sustainable mobility has become part of its identity. Pedestrian streets are crossed by horse-drawn carriages and small electric vehicles, and the silence that results wraps around everything. Old wooden houses, blackened by time, stand beside newer chalets, while along the lanes rise historic hotels, craft shops, and small stores that tell decades of mountaineering stories. The village is a starting point for those seeking trails and climbing routes, but also for those who simply wish to breathe in the slow rhythm of the mountains. Above all, however, stands the Matterhorn. Its pyramid of rock rises 4,478 meters, or about 14,692 feet, dominating the horizon and capturing every gaze. Generations of climbers have started from here to face it, and today it remains a symbol of Switzerland across the world. Trails and cable cars climb toward glaciers and alpine lakes, where the silence amplifies everything, turning every step into a direct encounter with nature. Bernina Pass and Viaducts. An alpine pass connects the Engadine to Valtellina, rising over 2,300 meters, or about 7,545 feet, among glaciers and alpine lakes that reflect the sky. The railway crossing it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a masterpiece of engineering that still leaves travelers speechless. The red trains of the Bernina Express climb slopes that seem impossible, without any cogwheel system, offering views of glacial landscapes and vast valleys. Among the marvels along this route stands out the Brusio Spiral Viaduct, a circular structure that allows the train to overcome the elevation while staying in harmony with its surroundings. This network also features other wonders, such as the Landwasser Viaduct, which with its 6 arches leaps directly into a tunnel carved into the rock. Here, alpine nature and human ingenuity have found a rare balance, telling the story of those who dared to challenge the mountain. Interlaken. Nestled between Lake Thun and Lake Brienz, this city is where water and mountains meet, without ever really seeking each other. The streets open onto glimpses of chalets, parks, and rivers that rush by, carrying the sound of the current. It is a starting point for alpine excursions, but also for boat rides and peaceful walks along the tree-lined avenues that follow the water's edge. By taking the funicular, you can reach Harder Kulm, a scenic viewpoint that offers an aerial panorama of the Eiger, the Mönch, and the Jungfrau. The city's atmosphere blends tourism and daily life, with markets, shops, and cafes coexisting with the slow rhythm of the surrounding nature, never trying to overtake it. Lake Lugano. The border between Switzerland and Italy runs through these deep waters, surrounded by mountains that descend steeply toward the shores. Along the lake grow palm trees and subtropical gardens, while the towns scattered along its edges reveal an architecture that blends Swiss precision with Mediterranean warmth. Walking along the lakeside means letting your gaze wander between vineyard-covered slopes and mountains mirrored in the water. Ferries connect the smaller villages, while scenic trails climb toward natural terraces from where one can look down over the basin below. It is a place of meeting where languages overlap and traditions intertwine. The cuisine changes from one shore to the other, and the atmosphere that emerges unites alpine precision with something softer, more open, that carries the taste of the South. Jungfraujoch. They call it the top of Europe, and to reach it, you must take a railway that runs through tunnels carved inside the mountains. At over 3,400 meters, or around 11,155 feet, the landscape opens into a sea of ice and snow that never melts. From here you can see the Aletsch, the longest glacier in the Alps, flowing slowly through valleys and ridges with an almost imperceptible motion. The panoramic terraces allow you to grasp the immensity of it all, while at the summit stands the Sphinx Observatory, a research station and observation point overlooking the surrounding peaks. The experience here is defined by the contrast between human engineering, which brought a railway this high, and nature, with its immutable grandeur. Grindelwald. High rock walls rise all around, and among them stretch endless green meadows. This village lives in the shadow of the Eiger and the Matterhorn, two giants that tower above it, yet never crush it. The streets are lined with wooden chalets, and their balconies filled with flowers in summer, while trails start from every corner, leading toward alpine pastures and glaciers. Winter brings the skiers, who come in great numbers, but summer reveals something deeper. The pastures, in fact, come alive, and the hiking paths turn into routes of discovery. Cable cars rise toward viewpoints where the landscape opens wide, revealing glacial valleys and waterfalls that fall deep into the rock. Daily life alternates between tourism and alpine tradition in a delicate balance that still manages to preserve the authenticity of this place. Geneva. Lake Geneva stretches before the city, which has always lived as a place of borders and exchanges. Its waters are dominated by the Jet d'eau, a fountain that has become the city's emblem, visible from every point along the shore. Nearby, the old town holds St. Peter's Cathedral, and a maze of cobblestone streets filled with cafes and bookshops that never seem to close. The presence of international institutions, such as the UN headquarters, gives the city a cosmopolitan character, reflected in the languages spoken and in the faces of those who live here. Walking along the lakeside allows you to see distant mountains, manicured parks, and boats that link the two shores. It is a city that breathes with the rhythm of the lake and with the rhythm of its people. Aletsch Glacier. Stretching for more than 20 kilometers, or about 12.4 miles, it is the longest glacier in the Alps, and also a UNESCO World Heritage Site. From the panoramic terraces, one can admire this enormous mass of ice, descending through valleys and ridges, marked by crevasses and moraines that reveal its slow, yet constant transformation. Its surface tells the story of the mountain's imperceptible movement, a process that never truly stops. All around, ancient forests of Swiss stone pines and rhododendrons endure the altitude, forming a natural laboratory observed by scientists studying climate change. Visiting this place means coming close to a primordial force, something that still shapes the heart of the Alps today with a silent grandeur that needs no words. St. Moritz. At 1,800 meters, or about 5,905 feet above sea level, in the Engadin Valley, lies St. Moritz, one of the capitals of alpine tourism. Its thermal waters were already known to the Romans, but its modern fame came with winter sports and the Olympic Games, which have left their mark here. When winter arrives, the lake freezes, turning into a stage for horse races and events that attract both tourists and locals. In summer, instead, it reflects the mountains and forests, with a calm that feels almost suspended in time. The streets of the center are lined with boutiques of the most famous fashion houses, historic hotels, and elegant cafes that, for over a century, have defined what alpine luxury truly means. St. Moritz lives in a balance between worldliness and nature, offering two faces of the same mountain that never contradict each other. Lucerne. Overlooking Lake Lucerne, also called the Lake of Four Cantons, and dominated by Mount Pilatus, the city intertwines history and landscape without ever having to choose. The covered bridge from the 14th century crosses the Reuss River, adorned with paintings that tell stories of the city's distant past. The towers of the ancient walls still watch over the center, while squares and alleys hold frescoed houses and lively markets that come alive each day. In the heart of the city, medieval buildings alternate with newer architecture, creating an urban fabric that tells the story of different eras without ever losing its identity. Boats glide across the calm waters of the lake, constantly linking villages and small harbors. Mürren. Suspended on a natural terrace in the Bernese Alps, there is a village where cars are banned, and the air smells of snow and fir trees. Traditional dark wood chalets overlook panoramas that stretch all the way to the Jungfrau, letting the gaze wander freely. The village can be reached only by cable car or cogwheel train, preserving an atmosphere of alpine isolation that has become rare today. During winter, it turns into an exclusive ski resort, while in summer it draws hikers who follow the flower-filled trails, seeking peace and quiet. Lavaux wine terraces. They stretch for dozens of kilometers or miles overlooking Lake Geneva, drawing geometric patterns of vineyards perched high above the water. Shaped by human hands since the Middle Ages, They are now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, both for their beauty and for the labor they represent. The stone walls retain the soil and store the warmth of the sun, creating a microclimate that favors the vines and allows them to thrive in conditions that elsewhere would be impossible. Winding through the vineyards are panoramic trails leading to small winemaking villages filled with cellars and rustic taverns. The Alps rise in the distance, completing the scene, while the lake mirrors the rows of vines, amplifying the brightness of everything around it. Schaffhausen. On the banks of the Rhine, Schaffhausen preserves a historic center filled with painted houses and Renaissance bay windows, a legacy of its medieval trading prosperity. A short distance away, the river widens and plunges with force at the Rhine Falls, forming a curtain of water over 150 meters wide, or roughly 492 feet, breaking the silence of the landscape. The rocky islands in the middle of the current can be reached by boat, allowing visitors to feel the power of the cascade from an astonishingly close distance. Around it, trails and panoramic terraces reveal the seamless continuity between the city and the river landscape. Vineyards climb the surrounding hills, completing a scene where nature and human settlement have coexisted for centuries, effortlessly. Wengen. Resting on a natural terrace and reachable only by train or cable car, this alpine village opens toward the peaks of the Eiger, the Mönch, and the Jungfrau. The wooden chalets preserve traditional alpine architecture, with balconies filled with flowers and steep roofs descending toward the ground. In winter, the ski slopes link the village to the vast Jungfrau region, while in summer, scenic trails lead to high-altitude pastures and lakes, where the air is crisp and pure. The absence of car traffic creates an intimate atmosphere, and the rhythm of life follows that of the slopes and the seasonal visitors, who arrive and then move on. Appenzell. Surrounded by soft mountains and rolling green hills, Appenzell has the authentic soul of a rural land. The facades of its houses are painted with decorative motifs, telling the story of a community rooted in textile work and livestock farming. In the town squares, open-air popular assemblies are still held, a living testimony of an ancient form of direct democracy that never stopped working. The surrounding landscape offers pastures dotted with farms and trails that disappear into the fields, while cheese, artisan markets, and traditional festivals fill daily life, maintaining a deep connection with the seasons and with the land. Here, culture and nature intertwine seamlessly, as if they had always been one and the same. Morcote. Lake Lugano embraces, between its shores, a Ticino village where pastel-colored houses reflect on the alpine waters, with a calm that feels carefully composed. The Church of Santa Maria del Sasso rises above the town, with its monumental staircase and Renaissance frescoes that speak of distant centuries. Historic villas with Mediterranean gardens alternate with fishermen's houses, creating a contrast that never feels out of place. The small harbor shelters pleasure boats and ferries that link the lakeside towns in a constant back and forth, while panoramic terraces offer views of the Alps closing the horizon. Gruyères. It is a small village that has preserved its medieval layout intact, as if time itself had stopped. Within its walls, the castle holds courtyards, decorated halls, and art collections that tell the story of those who once lived here. The cobbled streets descend among stone houses and inns, many connected to the production of the famous cheese that bears the village's name, still made today as it was centuries ago. All around, pastures and alpine dairies tell of an ancient cheese-making tradition that never faded, while the surrounding landscape frames a place where history, art, and gastronomy continue to blend. Thun. At the mouth of the lake that bears its name, this city unites water and mountain into an urban landscape that works in perfect harmony. The medieval castle dominates from above with its white towers, while the center stretches along the River Aar, crossed by covered bridges and wooden walkways that connect the two banks. Along the streets stand bourgeois houses, arcades, and squares, animated by markets that have taken place for generations. The lakeside offers manicured gardens and a promenade that opens toward the peaks of the Bernese Oberland. The city, moreover, has lived for centuries on river trade, but today it also thrives on culture and tourism, with museums, festivals, and open-air spaces that fill its seasons. Basel. Spread along the Rhine, Basel has a medieval heart, marked by its red sandstone cathedral, narrow alleys, and squares with sculpted fountains that tell centuries of urban life. Beside this core rises a modern face, made of world-renowned museums and striking contemporary architecture. The river is not just part of the landscape, but part of daily life, especially in summer, when its waters become a place of gathering. Each district has its own atmosphere, shifting from artisan workshops to art galleries frequented by collectors. Its position at the border with France and Germany has turned the city into a cultural and commercial crossroads, still evident today in the blend of languages heard in its streets, interwoven yet never confused. Lausanne. Built on slopes and terraces, along the hills descending toward Lake Geneva, the city offers ever-changing views. The historic center preserves a Gothic cathedral and stone-paved streets that climb toward small squares where time seems to slow down. Lower down, modern districts face the lakeside of Auchi, where gardens and promenades lead to the piers swept by the wind. The city is also home to the International Olympic Committee, hosting spaces dedicated to sport and culture that define its identity. Not far away, Chalon Castle rises directly from the water, with towers and walls mirrored in the lake, a testimony to centuries of history that saw merchants, travelers, and nobles pass through in search of fortune. Swiss National Park. In the eastern Engadin Valley lies the Swiss National Park, the only area in the country where nature is left to evolve without human interference. Marked trails cross forests of stone pines and larches, rocky valleys and alpine meadows, where vegetation grows according to its own rules. Here live ibex, chamois, and marmots roaming freely, along with more than 100 species of birds. Streams rush down from the glaciers, carving deep gorges, while the slopes bear the scars left by landslides and avalanches, reshaping the landscape each year. The absence of settlements keeps the environment untouched, a true natural laboratory protected by strict rules since 1914. St. Gallen. It spreads across hills and waterways, with a historic center distinguished by patrician houses adorned with painted bay windows. Baroque cathedral dominates the main square, beside the Abbey Library, which holds medieval manuscripts recognized as UNESCO heritage. The city was born around a monastery, and today it is also a cultural and university hub, breathing with a new and innovative rhythm. The streets alternate between traditional shops and modern spaces, yet in its neighborhoods one still feels the city's textile vocation that once made it famous, with old factories and museums keeping its memory alive. Gimmelwald. A village reachable only by cable car or on foot, resting on an alpine terrace above the Lauterbrunnen Valley. Wooden houses overlook fields and vegetable gardens, while balconies hold flowers and small everyday objects that withstand the altitude. Here, mountain farming is still alive, and the silence is broken only by the sound of cowbells or the wind descending from the glaciers, carrying with it the cold of the peaks. The trails offer views of waterfalls and the vertical cliffs surrounding the valley, while the absence of traffic and the village's small scale preserve its authentic alpine soul, untouched by time. Foroglio. In the heart of the Bavona Valley, it appears as a village suspended in time. Stone houses cluster along narrow lanes in a rugged landscape dotted with massive boulders that look as if they had fallen from the sky. Just above the village, a waterfall drops for more than 100 meters, or about 328 feet, making the place recognizable from afar and filling the air with a constant roar. The valley remained without electricity until just a few decades ago, telling the story of a hard life shaped by nature, which granted nothing easily. Today, you can still find traces of ancient terraces and rustic shelters, still used in summer by those who return to keep their bond with the past alive. Lake Walensee. It stretches at the foot of the Schaffhausen Mountains, with limestone walls plunging straight into the water, leaving no room for the land. Yet the lake has two distinct shores, each telling a different story. To the south, villages line the railway and the road connecting Zurich to Liechtenstein, while to the north, the slopes remain almost inaccessible, wild and steep. Small docks, beaches, and meadows offer quiet spots to rest, while sailboats and ferries cross its surface, carrying the slow rhythm of travel. The surrounding slopes host vineyards and orchards, protected by the region's mild microclimate that allows the vine to thrive. In winter, the snow-covered peaks reflect in the water, creating a sharp contrast between rock and lake that takes your breath away. Lake Limmernsee. Hidden among the mountains, Limmernsee is an artificial lake created by an immense dam, built in the mid-20th century for hydroelectric production. Its turquoise waters fill a glacial valley, enclosed by vertical rock walls that seem to seal the horizon. A panoramic trail runs along the surrounding ridges, offering sudden, breathtaking views of alpine meadows and debris fields left by retreating glaciers. Access, once restricted, is now possible via a technical cable lift that climbs from the valley floor, bringing visitors to a place that, for years, was known only to the dam's workers. Grimons. In the canton of Valais, a village defies time, with wooden houses darkened by the sun, telling stories of generations. Grimons breathes in rhythm with the seasons. Summer brings hikers along alpine trails, while winter turns the slopes into a paradise far from the crowds. Granaries raised on stone pillars, called rackards, still preserve grain just as they did centuries ago, when this village lived in isolation for months under winter snow. Those who walk through its alleys find wooden fountains from the 18th century, where water flows directly from the glaciers, refreshing the red geraniums that decorate every window. This is a village that doesn't chase the future, but rather guards a past that resists modernity without ever giving in. Concluding this visual journey through Switzerland, we have moved from the charm of its breathtaking alpine landscapes to the most precious gems of its historic cities, discovering together not only places, but also curiosities that make each canton of this confederation unique. We hope that the images and stories told have enriched your knowledge and stimulated the desire to personally explore the extraordinary harmony between nature and tradition that characterizes this nation of the heart of Europe.